Hello and welcome. My name is Izzarator and this video will be a bit different than my last videos. This is not a timeline video, this is a watch guide for Star Wars Episode 1 and Episode 3 and their individual ultra cuts. So, what is an ultra cut? These are longer cuts of the movies, including episodes of Star Wars shows that take place simultaneously to the movies. To watch these ultra cuts you have to stop multiple times and switch between them. I will give you timestamps when you have to stop and switch. These timestamps are taken from Disney+, so it could happen if you watch it anywhere else that the timestamps are different. Because of that, I will also give you visual clues when to stop. However, I recommend to watch these on Disney+, because it will be the easiest way to switch between them. Especially when you watch it on computer in a browser and have the individual show episodes and movies open in different tabs. But no worry, it will work anywhere where you want to watch it. The ultra cuts are created by myself, but I have to mention I got the idea from Decider.com. They made a watch guide for Revenge of the Sith, but mine differs on most points to theirs and includes one more show episode. In this video I will go through each individual segment of the movies and show episodes and give a short explanation why they are put where they are. So please be aware there will be spoilers for all movies and shows included in this video. For anyone who is just interested in the visual clues for when to stop without the background info, you can find them again at the end of the video. Enough explanation done, now to the video. I will start with Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace Ultra Cut. This Ultra Cut includes the movie and Star Wars Tales of the Jedi Season 1 Episode 4 The Sith Lord. The runtime for this will be 2 hours and 34 minutes, including the credits. The first segment to watch will be in The Phantom Menace. This will also be the longest segment of this Ultra Cut. This segment stretches from Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's time on Naboo and Tatooine until they manage their way back to Coruscant. Qui-Gon then reports to the Jedi Council his encounter with Maul and also informs them about Anakin. And then we cut to the scene where Anakin wants to say goodbye to Padme, but he only meets Queen Amidala. Stop right after this scene before the Senate building is shown. Now switch to the Tales of the Jedi episode The Sith Lord. Here we see Count Dooku getting the info that Qui-Gon had an encounter with a Sith. We see them talking to each other and Qui-Gon mentions that his news must have spread fast. In the Phantom Menace scene where Qui-Gon informs the council about Anakin, they tell him to bring Anakin to them. But the scene where Anakin is with the council happens in the evening, so this segment has to take place before that. And because we don't see Obi-Wan here, means he could be on his way to pick up Anakin. Watch this episode until the title card is shown. Back to the Phantom Menace. Because not achieving much on Coruscant, Padme, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan and Anakin head back to Naboo. There, with the help of the Gungans, they manage to get back into the city, where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan meet Maul again. After the epic fight, Qui-Gon sadly dies. And here you have to stop, right before the Coruscant ship with Palpatine and the other Jedi on board lands on Naboo. Now again switch back to the Sith Lord. Here we see Dooku again. He is now mourning the death of his former apprentice. Yaddle informs him that Qui-Gon's funeral will be held on Naboo, and the council is heading there, so because of this, the placement of this segment is easy. Dooku now meets with Palpatine, who still is on Coruscant, which is also another clue that this happens before the last scenes of the Phantom Menace. Watch this episode to the very end. For the last segment, switch back to the Phantom Menace. We now see the aftermath of everything that has happened in the movie. Finish the movie and with that the Ultra Cut also will be finished. And here is a short summary of this Ultra Cut. With just 5 segments the Ultra Cut of the Phantom Menace isn't too big of a watch. But this all changes with the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith Ultra Cut. This Ultra Cut includes the movie, the last 4 episodes of the 7th season of Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Tales of the Jedi Season 1 Episode 5 Practice Makes Perfect. There were more show episodes that are considered including in this Ultra Cut, but the fact that their main plots are taking place after the end of Revenge of the Sith and also because their tone feels out of place after watching the end of the movie, I decided against including them. But even without including them, this ultra cut is already a hell of a watch. The runtime of this ultra cut is 4 hours and 26 minutes including the credits. Start this ultra cut with Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 9, Old Friends Not Forgotten. The beginning shows Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting against an army of battle droids, until they get a message to return to the command ship because of an incoming transmission. The transmission was from Ahsoka, who seeks help from them. Then Ahsoka even visits them on their ship, but soon after Anakin and Obi-Wan have to make their way to Coruscant because Palpatine got kidnapped. Anakin gives Ahsoka her old improved lightsabers and they say goodbye to each other. Watch this scene to the end and stop before the Venator in the orbit of Mandalore is shown. Now start the Revenge of the Sith. We now see Anakin and Obi-Wan flying in the orbit of Coruscant. After a difficult journey to get to him, they manage to rescue Palpatine.
Another happy landing.
After another happy landing, they then meet up at the hangar and Anakin sees Padme again. She then tells him she's pregnant. Stop after this scene before Grievous' ship is shown in the orbit of Utapau. Now head back to Old Friends Not Forgotten. Ahsoka, Bo-Katan and the clones arrive at Mandalore and invade the city Sundari. They succeed and the Mandalorians withdraw from the fight to hide in the Undercity. Ahsoka and the clones pursue them, but they get in an ambush. The placement for this and the next segment I got from the official Star Wars Timelines book. They take place before the next part of Revenge of the Sith. Watch this episode to the very end. Next, start Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 10, The Phantom Apprentice. This episode continues right where we left in the previous one. We see Ahsoka and Maul talk a little until he flees. Watch until Ahsoka loses track of him and stop before the scene where Ahsoka and Obi-Wan have a holo call. Now back to Revenge of the Sith. We now see some days pass with all the things that occur on Coruscant.
We do not have many ships to spare.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
Yoda heads to Kashyyyk, Anakin gets the mission to spy on Palpatine, and Obi-Wan is sent to capture Grievous. Watch until the scene with the battle on Kashyyyk ends and Yoda getting shot at. Stop right before the scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan say goodbye because Obi-Wan is heading to Utapau. Continue now The Phantom Apprentice. It seems a bit weird on how much time has passed on Coruscant to seemingly no time has passed on Mandalore, but the battles must have held on longer than we saw in the previous segments. Nevertheless, we now see Ahsoka and Obi-Wan having a holo call. Obi-Wan brings Ahsoka up to date and mentions he's heading to Utapau, so this segment has to take place here. At the end we see Maul mind-probe Jesse and Gar Saxon walking off. Stop right there before the prison on Mandalore is shown. Return now to Revenge of the Sith for a quick segment. Anakin and Obi-Wan say goodbye and at the end Obi-Wan jumps into hyperspace with his Jedi Starfighter. Stop before Anakin's Force Vision. Head back to The Phantom Apprentice. We see Ahsoka and Bo-Katan interrogate Olmec and then Maul holding a motivational speech to the Mandalorians. Stop after this scene before the evacuation of Mandalore is shown. Continue with Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan now arrives on Utapau and starts to fight Grievous.
Hello there.
General Kenobi.
Watch until Obi-Wan loses his lightsaber and stop right before the Jedi Temple is shown. Continue now The Phantom Apprentice. The next two segments take place parallel to the previous segment before they cross over in the next one. So because of that, I placed them here. Maul and his Mandalorians now start a counterattack, and we see another epic duel with Ahsoka and Maul. Watch this episode to the end. Next starts Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 11, Shattered. This episode continues right where we left in the last one. Maul and his Mandalorians are now defeated. Ahsoka and Bo-Katan then have a quick chat until Rex tells Ahsoka to head to a holo conference with the Jedi Council. Watch this scene to the end and stop before they arrive at the holo conference. Now head back to Revenge of the Sith. We now see the mentioned holo conference. Watch until it ends and stop before we see Palpatine looking at some holo plans. Return now to the Clone Wars episode Shattered. We again see the holo conference, but it is expanded. Again watch until the conference ends and we see Ahsoka leave. Stop right before we see the scene with Maul getting transported on the ship. Now continue Revenge of the Sith. We now see Obi-Wan defeating Grievous and Anakin finds out Palpatine is a Sith.
So uncivilized.
Anakin then heads to the Jedi Temple to tell this discovery to Mace Windu. Mace then makes his way to Palpatine. Watch until he leaves with the ship. Stop right before Padme is shown in her home. Head back now to Shattered. I placed this segment here to bring the episode to the next crossover point. Maul now gets transported to the Venator and Ahsoka and Rex having a talk in the command station. Watch until Rex gets new orders and Ahsoka looks into the hyperspace. Stop right before Maul's cell is shown. Return now to Revenge of the Sith. We now see Mace with his fellow Jedi confronting Palpatine.
I am the Senate. Not yet. It's treason, then.
Mace and Palpatine fight each other, but then Anakin intervenes. Mace gets defeated and Palpatine now tells Anakin the next steps. Watch until the scene with Yoda feeling a force ripple is shown. Stop right before Palpatine continues his speech. Continue Shattered for a quick segment. We now see Maul and Ahsoka feeling the same force ripple as Yoda. Watch this scene to the end until we see Rex getting Order 66. Again return to Revenge of the Sith. Here we get to see Order 66 and its impact. Watch until Yoda kills the two clones who wanted to shoot him and then fleeing with the Wookiees. Stop before we see the clones attacking the Jedi Temple. Now head back to Shattered. The spacing between the Force Ripple and Order 66 happening seems a bit off in the Clone Wars show, but maybe it has to do something with them being in hyperspace. Nevertheless, we now see Rex getting Order 66, but Ahsoka manages to escape. Watch until Rex orders the other clones to execute Maul and search for Ahsoka. Stop right before Maul again is shown in his cell. Continue with Revenge of the Sith. We now see Yoda and Obi-Wan managing to escape Order 66. Watch until Anakin visiting Padme and C-3PO saying he feels helpless. Stop right before Obi-Wan arriving at the Tantive 4. Head back to the episode Shattered. This and the next segments until we return to Revenge of the Sith all happen in a short time frame, so I placed them here right after each other. We continue Ahsoka avoiding getting killed and see her removing the inhibitor chip from Rex. Watch this episode until it ends. Now start Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 12, Victory and Death. Rex, now again on Ahsoka's side, now helps her escape. They try to get their way to the hangar, but the other clones are waiting for them in there. Ahsoka has a plan and we see them heading to the hangar. Stop right there before we see them getting there. Start now Star Wars Tales of the Jedi Season 1 Episode 5 Practice Makes Perfect. This episode functions as sort of a flashback. In this episode we see Anakin's intense training with Ahsoka and the clones that happens throughout the Clone Wars. At the end of the episode we then see a short scene that continues right where we left in the previous segment. Watch this episode as a whole. Continue now with Victory and Death. We now see Ahsoka and Rex managing to escape from the Venator. Watch until the scene with Ahsoka getting in the escape ship with Rex ends. Stop right before the crash site of the Venator is shown. Return now to Revenge of the Sith. Now many important stuff happens. Yoda and Obi-Wan find out that Anakin betrayed them. Yoda fights Palpatine. And the epic battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan takes place. Watch until the scene with Palpatine kneeling beside the defeated and burnt Anakin ends. Stop right before the asteroid colony is shown. Get back to victory and death now. This next segment has to take place before the ending of Revenge of the Sith, because we see in Tales of the Jedi Season 1 Episode 6 Resolve that Ahsoka attends the funeral of Padme, so I think this is the best placement for this segment. In this segment we see that Ahsoka and Rex buried the clones that died in the crash. Watch until Ahsoka throws her lightsaber to the ground. Stop right before the Imperial ship lands on the crash site. Continue now the Revenge of the Sith. Now we see the aftermath of everything that happened in the movie. Watch the movie to the end. For the last segment, return to victory and death. You can see this segment kinda like a post-credit scene. We see Darth Vader visiting the crash site of the Venator and finding Ahsoka's lightsaber. According to the Star Wars Timelines book, this takes place 2 years later in the year 17 before the Battle of Yavin. Finish the episode, and with finishing it, you will also finish the Revenge of the Sith Ultra Cut. Here is the summary of the whole Ultra Cut. I really recommend watching it, it really makes a great movie even greater. A written form of this timeline will be posted on Reddit. You will find a link in the description. You will also find a link there to the Decider.com Revenge of the Sith watch guide, which inspired me to make my own. I have plans to make similar watch guides for episode 5, 6, 7 and 8. So, if you enjoyed this watch guide, subscribe and click the bell to not miss these future videos. And please consider liking this video, it would help me a lot. Now as promised, here are the visual clues when to stop without the background info. Again, I will start with the Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace Ultra Cut. Start the Phantom Menace and watch until Anakin visits Queen Amidala to say goodbye to Padme, and stop before the Senate building is shown. Next, start the Sith Lord and watch until the title insert is shown. Next, continue the Phantom Menace and watch until Qui-Gon's death, and stop before the Coruscant ship lands on Naboo. Next, continue the Sith Lord and watch it to the end. Now get back to the Phantom Menace and finish it too. Now to the visual clues for the Star Wars Episode 3 The Revenge of the Sith Ultra Cut. Start All Friends Not Forgotten and watch until Ahsoka and Anakin say goodbye, and stop before the Venator is shown in the orbit of Mandalore. Now start the Revenge of the Sith and watch until Padme tells Anakin she's pregnant, and stop before Grievous' ship is shown in the orbit of Utapau. Next continue All Friends Not Forgotten and watch it to the end. Now start the Phantom Apprentice and watch until Ahsoka and Rex lose track of Maul in the Undercity, and stop right before Ahsoka having a holocall with Obi-Wan. Next continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until the Battle of Kashyyyk ends and Yoda getting shot at, and stop before the scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan saying goodbye. Next continue the Phantom Apprentice and watch until Maul mind probes Jesse and Saxon walks off, and stop before the prison on Mandalore is shown. Next continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until Obi-Wan jumps into hyperspace, and stop before Anakin's Force Vision. Again continue the Phantom Apprentice and watch until Maul makes his motivational speech to the Mandalorians, and stop before the evacuation of the city happens. Get back to Revenge of the Sith and watch until Obi-Wan loses his lightsaber in the pursuit with Grievous, and stop before the Jedi Temple is shown. Now continue the Phantom Apprentice and finish it. Start now Shattered and watch until Rex tells Ahsoka about the holo-conference with the Jedi Council, and stop before they arrive there. Next continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until the holo-conference ends, and stop before Palpatine is shown looking at holoplans. Next continue Shattered and watch until the holo-conference ends and Ahsoka leaves, and stop before the scene with Maul getting transported on the ship. Continue now Revenge of the Sith and watch until Mace makes his way to Palpatine, and stop right before the scene with Padme sitting at home. Get back to Shattered and watch until Rex getting new orders and Ahsoka looking into hyperspace. and stop before Maul in his cell is shown. Next, continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until Yoda senses a force ripple. And stop before Palpatine continues his speech. Next, continue Shattered and watch until Ahsoka senses the force ripple and stop right before Rex getting Order 66. Head back to Revenge of the Sith and watch until Yoda kills 2 clones and flees, and stop before the clone attack of the Jedi Temple is shown. Get back to Shattered and watch until Rex orders the other clones to search for Ahsoka, and stop before Maul is again shown in his cell. Next, continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until Anakin's visit to Padme and C-3PO says he feels helpless. Stop before Obi-Wan arriving at the Tantive 4. Next, continue Shattered and watch it to the end. Now start Victory and Death and watch until Ahsoka and Rex are heading to the hangar where the clones are waiting for them, and stop before they arrive there. Start now Practice Makes Perfect and watch it as a whole. Next, continue Victory and Death and watch until Ahsoka manages to get into the escape ship with Rex, and stop before the crash site of the Venator is shown. Next, continue Revenge of the Sith and watch until Palpatine kneels beside a burnt and defeated Anakin, and stop before the asteroid colony is shown. Return to Victory and Death and watch until Ahsoka throws away her lightsaber, and stop before the Imperial ship lands on the crash site of the Venator. Next, continue Revenge of the Sith and finish it. And at last, return to Victory and Death and finish it too. Hope you had a good watch and see you in the next one.